Andy Wilson of Press On, who's the owner of a very exciting and interesting and innovative business called Press On, based in Gillingham, aren't you? Is that right? Or Chatham Way?
Yeah, based on the outskirts of Chatham, near Maidstone. That's right, yeah.
Yeah, right. So, and I really wanted to talk to Andy because he's doing throughout the kind of COVID crisis, being really active and carrying on working, and business has been, actually, he was just saying, business is really good. It's thriving at the moment. So it's a good opportunity to catch up with a UK printer who's both innovative and creative, but also who is focusing on things like sustainability and really understands the relationship between him as a print service provider and his customer. So Andy, hi to you.
How you doing?
Good, yeah. So just give us a quick intro so that we get a bit of an understanding of you and your business and what you're doing at the moment.
So as mentioned, I'm Andy. I'm the managing director, the owner of Press On. We are, as we just mentioned, we're based in Medway Towns in Kent, just off the M2 motorway. A nice handy route into London, where a bulk of our work takes place. We are 20 years old this year, 2020. We were formed in the year 2000. Our birthday's in November. Looking forward to that. And yeah, we've been based in this location. We've had 3 locations during our during 20 years. We started off in London, in Wandsworth, then we moved into our first location, Medway Towns, and then we moved to this much bigger location in 2015 after we'd outgrown our existing premises, and this is where we plan to be for the next 5 years. Well, either that until the lease runs out.
So how big a business are you? How many people are you employing at the moment?
Well, obviously that's been kind of in flux over the last 6 months. So pre-COVID numbers, we were basically 20 people, if you count our part-time members of staff, 20 people in our factory in Chatham, and then we have our installers that we've got what we call permanent contractors, and there's a team of 8 of those. Some of them based down here in the southeast, and then we have another crew based out of Manchester and one in Scotland. Mm-hmm. So whilst the bulk of our business is down here in the southeast, we do have clients that operate nationally, and we do have regular installations going on nationally.
And what typically are those clients? What kind of clients are they?
Well, they're variety. One of the I wouldn't say, maybe it's a key thing to our success is not trying to be a jack of all trades, but not specialising in any one market. And I think in order to have a sustainable business, and I think 20 years of trading now kind of proves that it must work, is having a variety of customers. So we've got customers that originate from the construction industry, major infrastructure industry, and we do a lot of signage and hoarding graphics for those types of businesses. We work with design agencies, we work with shopping centres, we work with fleet owners. So we're very much, dealing with everything from advertising to automotive, from construction to even marine, when we've wrapped, boats. So yeah, we've got a very varied client list, and it is definitely something that we focus on maintaining, because I do not want to be if one market is sustained, it becomes problematic, then we've got other markets that can support it. And that formula's worked, and it's certainly got us this far.
So you're not sort of 80-20, you don't have one big client that gives you all your money kind of thing. You're careful. And that again has been an absolute focus of ours. If we have any one client that's contributing too much of our turnover, I will do a lot to change that. Not to obviously reduce what that customer spends, but take the margin of what that customer spends and invest it in trying to get other customers. Yeah, sure. I've seen it so many times in our industry and in other industries where that you become beholden to a group of maybe 4 or 5 customers that make up too much of your turnover. And I think that's something, as a business owner, you need to be aware of, because you don't know what's around the corner, and you don't know,
as fashion changes or demand changes, whether that customer will be with you in the next decade or the next 5 years or whatever. So it's important to have a variety of different customers operating in different markets.
I think we'll pick up on that. Just give us a flavour of the technology that you use. What are the machinery that you've got in-house?
Currently, a majority of our equipment is latex-based. So we have two roll-to-roll 3000 series, so the 3500 latex and a 3600 latex, predominantly for doing a lot of the self-adhesive vinyl work. We do a lot of tension frame fabrics that we also use those machines for. A little complement to those two for mainly proofing and doing little short run jobs is an HP Latex 570, which we've had since they came out a number of years ago. And we've recently added in an HP Latex R series printer, which we put in last year, again complementing the other HP equipment in the portfolio. We also have an aging now ViewTech hybrid machine that was our original hybrid flatbed latex printer. The R series kind of it didn't replace it yet. We're still running it, but as time's gone on, it's become less and less essential. So predominantly latex printing, yeah. Sure.
And I just wonder whether at the moment, obviously that equipment's doing the job it needs to do. Going forward, do you think there's things that you'll be looking for in terms of technology to help you grow your business?
I think over the last, decade or so, there's been a few junctions where we've gone from, for example, we got to a junction with solvent printing and couldn't go really any further with it, and that was when we first got into latex printing. That was sort of the back end, sort of 2009, 2010. And then before that, it was the junction, do we carry on with roll to roll or do we go hybrid? Do we go static? But I think the machinery that we've got at the moment in the roll to roll latex, because of the variety of applications we use, we can do predominantly the marketplace at the moment. Our demand seems to be for sustainable materials, still doing a lot of PVC products in self-adhesive vinyls, but sustainable materials like wallpaper and fabric, sustainable rigid substrates as well. That we're kind of covered by that R series technology and the latex roll to roll technology. It's covered everything. So there's nothing I'm sitting here thinking I really need to invest in that soon. We kind of got a junction when we looked at dye sublimation, and I think there's a massive opportunity with dye sublimation, but it's not in my marketplace at the moment.
Right.
So yeah, we looked at that sort of 2-3 years ago and decided to go down the roll to roll HP Latex 3000 series to achieve what we needed to achieve, and we really did study that and compared it to a lot of the dye sub offerings that were out there at the time.
Just out of curiosity, how would you go about looking at a new piece of technology? Would you actually, obviously go and see a few companies and look at how it works?
It's quite difficult actually because I've. It's difficult particularly when technology is quite pioneering, because our industry as a whole is, although my network is quite, open door, and I have a very open door policy. I like talking to my competitors. I like talking to other people in my industry, and I like to share my experiences and what I've learned. Others within the industry don't. I'm very skeptical, and I don't mean this with any disrespect to the people that sell the equipment. I'm skeptical about what they tell me in terms of what machines can achieve, because I've been 25 years in this business. I've been 20 years an owner of a business. That you need a more balance. You need to see a machine being operated, and you need to hear what the sales pitch is on the machine. So it's difficult sometimes though to get real world experience of what the machine will do in a factory. And it's something I've always been happy to share from day one, going back to our early hybrid machines and back even to solvent. So in terms of how we evaluate a machine, it starts by, talking to the suppliers, talking to people that have got the machines, talking to our customers and going, we're thinking about buying this. What do you think? Where's your business going?
I think the sense is that you wouldn't go and invest in something unless you felt there was a market opportunity for you, I guess. And then that's so equally, you'd be looking to talk to your customers and want to hear them saying, "Listen, Andy, this would be really useful if we could do it this way, or we could do this, or we want to achieve something different in that retail space. How can we do it?" And you say, "Well, there's a number of technologies."
I suppose it's twofold, because you obviously look at, what are you producing at the moment, and does this piece of equipment that we're looking to invest in, does that return on our investment? Can it, in the early days it was easy because the technology marched on so quickly, but now the technology is more mature. The instant savings. I mean, I can remember looking at our bank of I can't remember what we had now, but we had I think we had a certain type of latex printer, and then they brought out the 3000 series. And it was just a simple mathematical equation. This machine costs this much, and the ink is that, and it will turn over that amount of square meterages in a shift. And it was instant. Well, it was an economy. It was an economic scale. And we just went, well, we've got to buy that machine. Whereas now, as the technology has become more mature, across UV, across latex, across all the different platforms, it's more a case of, well, what competitive edge will this give us? So, again, moving from UV and deciding between dye sub and ending up with latex, the latex has given us a USP in the environmental and sustainability markets, and that's helped us move the business forward that way, whereas previously it might have been a productivity decision.
Let's talk a little bit about that. So I know for you, the whole issue of sustainability is interesting, not just in terms of sustainable print, but in terms of thinking about the way that your business runs and just kind of the story around it. What's your view on it going forward?
I think when we moved into this factory, we had a clean sheet of paper, and we looked at how we ran the factory and how we operated the waste and ran the building and what energy we used, and it kind of starts there. You look at your own business, and then you look at your customer's business, and we've had a number of opportunities that presented to us with removing PVC elements. So PVC banners, for example, it's visibly difficult to watch something that's been displayed, a large format banner that's been displayed for just a couple of weeks, in some instances a couple of hours, and we bring that back on the vans, and it goes into a skip, and you think, well, where's that going? And quite often, particularly with PVC products, it's going in landfill. And the initial, some years ago now we started doing it. It was like, well, what can we do to stop that? And then you think, well, is the onus on us to stop that? Well, yes, but the onus is on us to stop that by educating the customer that there are other options. And that's kind of been accelerated over the last 12 months with new opportunities presenting themselves. And when I say opportunities, I mean opportunities or channels to recycle them. That's one element, and also products that are coming onto the market now that are specifically designed to be recycled or have been manufactured from recycled products. There is an awful lot of BS out there as well.
Yeah.
That you need to filter through. Oh, we've got this recyclable material. I don't buy into anyone who says they've got a recyclable material. That instantly switches me off, right? I need to see where it's come from, why it's going to benefit me, and where it's going to go at its end of life. And that's the critical part of this whole process, is the end of life, because it's all very well printing on a recycled polyester yarn, and going and celebrating the fact you displayed a huge banner on a recycled polyester yarn. If when you take it down, you chuck it in a skip and it ends up in landfill, end of life is the most critical part of this. And teaching a customer, actually, if you change your material to this, I know it's going to cost you more, but your environmental policy will be adhered to better if we then address what we're going to do with this end of life. And that's the other end of spectrum, it's also, there's a lot of BS around there, and it's going, well, what is a credible end of life? Because, a lot of people say, well, what are you going to do with it? And we've sent stuff in for energy recovery, and they're like, well, what do you mean by energy recovery? Well, it's going to a power station where they're going to clean burn it, and then and it's going to be, turned into energy that might be used for your next project. Yeah. There's a few eyebrows raised with that, but then people seem quite happy to just go, well, I'm not too sure about that, but put it in landfill. That, it's addressing the amount that we're putting in landfill, and better, confronting what these materials are going to, where they're going to end up at end of life, because there's no point celebrating the fact you produce it on recycled material if it's going to end in that. That's where I'm at with it, and that's why I'm frustrated with it.
Okay, that's really interesting. How does it work in respect of your customers and your sense that sustainability? Yeah, obviously we've just gone through the COVID crisis. We're still very much in it. Sustainability was seen as very, very important. What are your customers saying in terms of their strategic approach? Has anything changed? Has the COVID crisis made it different? Has is your sense that this is here to stay, because sustainability as an issue is here to stay? What's your thinking?
I think it's too early to say if the COVID has had an impact on customer attitudes to sustainability. I think the general approach to sustainability is much stronger. If you cast your memory back to like 2008, everybody was on the sustainability trip in 2008, and then the global financial crisis hit, and everybody's attitude to sustainability basically got cancelled for about 3 years until the Olympics came out, and then it was back on the sustainability trip again. So, I think the sustainability movement is in a much stronger place, and people are willing to listen to the issues that poses, and I think they're still listening to it. And there are some companies that are championing this. It helps the movement as a whole. I mean, if you look at what Sky's doing with ocean rescue and their strong environmental policies that mean you cannot supply certain types of products unless they meet the environmental policy. We've had instances in the last 12 months where, clients that are using, particularly in the advertising industry, you've got to break down so many borders, because it is cost driven. If an advertising agency is pitching against another advertising agency and they just want the PVC banner in there because it's cheap and it's quick and it means that but we've been able to show customers, actually there is an alternative here. It's going to cost you more money. The one thing that the customers need to understand, and this is part of the education process, is recycling and being, environmentally conscious isn't free. It's going to cost money. The reason why we're damaging the environment in the first place is because we're taking the cheaper approach. Yeah, there's a consequence to using cheap imported products that can't be recycled, and the consequences are plain to see with climate change and environmental impact.
Yeah, and at the point, you're right, and I think we're probably going to be led by the big brands like Nestle, P&G, Unilever, who strategically have still got a sustainability policy in their mind, and PepsiCo, for example. So everything will continue. I just think that there's been a little blip that's kind of made us think slightly differently, but it'll be, it's here to stay, isn't it? Because it's not only everything you said, but it's also, I guess, it's supply chain, that whole kind of issues of local production rather than shipping from the other side of the world. All these issues that we're kind of thinking about have been reinforced even by the last 6 months, and probably going to be even more important, aren't they?
And looking at your supply chain, we've gone to great lengths about looking at our supply chain and asking, where are these materials coming from? Where are we buying these materials from? Because they've just spent 3 months on a container ship from the other side of the world. But hang on a minute, they've got environmental credit. Well, that again, it's not right. We've been working with a company in Dover that makes the aluminium composite material that we use for the site haulings. They're manufacturing it in the UK. It costs more than the cheaper imports, but they're manufacturing it in the UK. It is a sustainable supply chain. Yeah. And not only that, because it's being manufactured in the UK, at its end of life, Yeah, I can take it back off the construction site, give it back to this company in the UK, and they will recycle it back into ACM panels.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think you're right. I think that's, and we're hearing that more and more, that localized production and actually print, particularly digital print, is well placed for that, isn't it? Because it enables us to produce.
And it was a happy accident, because one of the things that made us really look at supply chain and shortening supply chain was the Brexit spectre, having that hanging over our heads about us not being able to get in the materials that we want to get in, and sourcing. It is possible to source materials from UK manufacturers, or at least manufacturers that are manufacturing from the raw materials in the UK, and it's not difficult to do. And I think just chipping away at that and supporting UK businesses is also helping the sustainability movement at the same time.
Yeah, and I think that would apply when, whether we were talking to a Dutch or a German company, more localized production is logical, isn't it?
Exactly.
For all the reasons we said. So just thinking a little bit about kind of where you expect, if there is growth in the market or sustained growth, where do you think it will come from in the next 12 months? I mean, I don't want to be doom and gloom. I want to be thinking in terms of optimism and where we might go with things. What's your sense? I mean, you just said to me before we started recording this, we've had a great month. This is a great month. We're doing really well. So where's that all coming from? What is it?
I think great month. I also said touch wood.
Sorry, mate.
It's I'm mindful of small mercies at the moment. Yeah, I mean, great month. We're seeing the return. I mean, recently we've got the kids going back to school. People are going back to work. There are questions over how people are going to operate moving forward. But the generally speaking, I think we're now getting into the new norm, and people are understanding how we're going to operate. If we're looking at where we're going to see growth from and what marketplaces, obviously the biggest one, because it's at zero over the last few months, is events and entertainment. That's going to be a big growth area, because people are going to look at, right, okay, well, we need to socially distance. We need to operate this event or this theatre or this venue in a new way, and they're taking the time to work out how they're going to do it. People are still going to watch live music. They're still going to watch live theatre. They're still going to experience events, but in a safer way, and that actually might work in our benefit in this industry, because people need to be instructed and told and explained when they get there where to go and what to do and how to enjoy the venue, and that's going to be done with signage.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, people ask obviously about the events space generally, and I think going forward it will need to be more controlled in the short term.
Absolutely.
Not only to manage to do it, but actually because people will feel they want to be in a safe environment, so they'll be more conscious of their own personal safety and the safety of the people there. So everything you just said is completely right. There'll be a much more managed environment, which will need signposting, graphics maybe on the floor, areas that are protected. All the things that the print industry does, will be part of that.
Absolutely, and it's the same for there's been a lot of talk. I mean, we're not experiencing the level of income from the retail industry, but the retail industry is booming. It's just not the high street element of that industry at the moment. So if we look out into the high street at the moment, and there are many brands and many well recognized labels and shop fronts that are disappearing. But is that because people don't want them anymore, or is that because people's needs have changed? And I think it's because people's needs have changed, but I know it's because people's needs have changed, and fashion has changed, and so if you turn back the clock again, to the early 80s, go and have a look at the high street in the early 80s, because it was a pretty similar picture.
Yeah. I mean, everything evolves.
Yeah, exactly.
It all evolves, doesn't it? We just our world landscape, our business landscape evolves. So on that basis, I mean, I guess you just need to be flexible, innovative, those kind of things?
Flexible initiatives, see where the new opportunities exist. Keep talking to the client base through our social media channels. Showing people what we're doing, how we're doing it, and hopefully that as it seems to have worked over the last decade, that we show people what we're doing and they see and recognise opportunities for their own businesses and come to us to achieve that.
What do you sense has been your kind of key? If you were saying that one or two things that we've done have just seemed to have really resonated, have really worked in terms of our relationship. I mean, you mentioned earlier you're very open about sharing stuff. Thank you for doing this. It's kind of like it's some printers aren't. They're much more protective of their knowledge, but actually. Is that one of the things that you felt has been really reciprocal? Works both ways. People share stuff back with you. Good relationship.
Yeah, I think there's my peer network, if you could call it that. It's got people in here that I've known for some of them I've had in my network for 25 years, and some of them are more recent. But yeah, sharing information has been detrimental sometimes, and some people have taken that information and used it, and that's fine. But equally, I've built some relationships with some great trade customers and some been able to share my experience with some of my closest competitors and enjoyed that. And we so it has its pros and cons, but I think the pros outweigh the cons. Yeah. Quite massively. And I think particularly, I have to say, in the last 6 months, it's been really good to talk to other people in our position. I've been sitting in this office, being the only person in this factory, in the last 6 months, and thinking, crikey, what the hell is going to happen? And reaching out and to other people in the same position it's kept me sane, to be honest with you. So, there are experiences that we've all shared amongst ourselves over the last 6 months that I'll not forget in a hurry.
Yeah. Do you in your relationship with your customers, are you quite intuitive? Are you quite good at getting an understanding of what keeps them awake at night? Of what their pain is, what they're looking for in terms of the potential gain of working with you. Are you really intuitive?
What we've tuned into, if you can put it like that, is the need for accountability. Yeah, our operation is not a trade operation, a traditional trade operation. We've built a business on reassuring customers. So we have a mix of trade and we have a mix of direct to client. Yeah. So when I say direct to client, it will be a brand. Yeah. And if you've been in the business as long as I have and a few of my team members now, you'll remember that, companies had specific departments for specific roles, and our customers would go to the print buyer when they wanted to buy something, and the print buyer would go out and he would find a printer and they would buy something. Now, new inquiry I had in this morning was for some hoarding graphics, and it was a PA to a property developer. And this guy was basically saying, look, I don't know, but they come to us because we say, don't worry, we'll take the accountability, and this accountability ethic goes right through the business, and we will hold your hand. And if we miss something, that's on us. And those guys worry that the decision that they make will come back in this kind of blame culture we live in this day and age, that they didn't make the right decision. But what we say is, we'll help you make the right decision. And even if you make the wrong decision, or you didn't think of something, we'll think that as we've lacked, so we'll replace it. So we reassure the customer throughout the whole process that that we've got their back. If something's missed, and it's Sunday night at 10 o'clock at night, we'll make sure that that's not going to be noticed, or it's going to be resolved by store opening at 9 o'clock on Monday morning, for example.
Yeah, and that's a really good thing to be, to have a relationship with your customer like that. I think
it was always a classic. It was always a classic when I started in the business. It'd be like you get some guy and they go, right, okay, there's a mistake on this job, and it was that was the artwork they sent us.
Blame someone else.
Oh yeah, well, it's in the artwork. Okay, so well, that's obviously their fault then, isn't it? You know, so then we're just going to get this bun fight of who's going to take the rap for it. It's easy just to go, look, we should have spotted the artwork was wrong. You know,
definitely right. Andy, listen, thank you very much for that. That's been really useful for us to hear. It's 30 minutes that we've just spent chatting. It's great to get a bit of understanding of your philosophy, your business, the relationships you have both with your customers and also, as you said yourself, with people who work there and also your peers. So thank you for that. Really valuable, and have a good day.